Hi, everyone. This is Hal Kroseman with Screenwriting U. And hey, I want to welcome you to writing multi-layered screenplays. This is an advanced set of skills. It's an incredibly important set of skills. You'll see we have, an iceberg right there. And there's two parts to it. There's the surface level, and then there's what's beneath the surface level. You notice, at least from what they say, most icebergs have more beneath the surface than on the surface. And I think we ought to write our screenplays exactly that way. Now, by the way, this comes from talking with producers, with agents, with some managers about this, right? They are looking for depth in the quality of your writing. So let's just jump right into this. Here's what we're going to be doing today. First, we're going to talk a little bit about how the market is changing, because it is, and it's important to know where it's going and what differences there are. I'm going to point to a very specific difference that affects you. Then we'll look at how we can discover our beneath the surface story, because again, what's beneath the surface many times is as important or more important than what's on the surface. We'll look at 8 different ways to build in depth. And then we'll talk about the upcoming class, Writing Incredible Movies, for those of you who would like to really, truly double, triple, or quadruple the quality of your writing. So let's just jump into that. This is something that we noticed, about a year ago. Our market is changing. And right now I'm not talking about the current events or those kinds of things. I'm talking about for you as a writer. Because of the elevation of television, like the quality of TV shows, the feature market needs more. Now, think about this for a moment. You have probably noticed that some of the TV shows you've watched are better than anything you've seen in a theater. And the writing is just incredible. Now, part of the reason, of course, is because they've got an entire room of writers working together. But another part of the reason is because they are operating with higher level skill sets. So when you're writing a feature film, you need to be able to mirror that TV quality. That's why we're talking about what we're talking about today. By the way, I totally believe in this rule. When the market changes, don't get left behind. Just even the simple change we're talking about right now, it's like, I would say the quality of feature films coming in the door need to be about 30 to 50% better than they were 5 years ago. That's important. So you might be reading scripts that were made into movies 10, 15 years ago and going, okay, I can write at that level. It's not good enough anymore. So that's why we're talking about all of this. Now, one of the big points and the big places you want to look is the difference between the surface versus what's beneath the surface. And if you ever read for a contest, you will see this. You will see most of the scripts are written entirely on the surface. Surface means here's the characters. They are going on this particular journey and they're taking these actions. They're saying these words to themselves and to others, right? And it's like all of that is pretty much on the surface. The question is, what's beneath the surface? Because if you don't have anything really strong beneath the surface, you're in serious trouble. And not like somebody's going to say something mean to you. It's just like, wow, it's going to be hard to be able to win contests, to be able to get indoors, to be able to work with managers, all of those kinds of things. And, I believe you have spent a lot of time on this. You deserve to be successful. So the question just becomes, what's the difference? What do you need to see and create in order to be successful here? So on the surface, these are the obvious details of the basic story. And I was talking with an A-list screenwriter and I said, does this ever happen? An idea pops into your head. You kind of write out an outline or whatever it is. And then you come back to it 6 months later and suddenly discover a whole different story beneath the surface. And this guy said, well, it happens. That happens a lot. But he says, usually it's not 6 months. Usually it's a day or two later. And why it's a day or two later for a pro is because they think this way. They create this way. They are used to looking for what's beneath the surface. They don't fall in love with their surface story. They make the assumption from the beginning. What I just created, even though I thought it was really great, is my surface story. What's beneath the surface, right? So here's what is beneath the surface. It's the deeper meaning, right? For your characters, your theme, your layers, your intrigue, your subtext, right? It's the journey beneath the journey. And again, many times what is beneath the surface is just as important or more important than what's on the surface. So part of that is understanding and knowing deeper layers. Now, the easiest way to think about a layer is to just remember back to the Sixth Sense, right? It's like there was this one layer that was incredible in that movie. And by the way, it doesn't mean you have to do it that way. There are lots of ways to deliver layers. But the layer that was incredible was that the psychiatrist who thought he was helping the kid actually had been dead the whole time, and the kid was helping him, right? So that provided a deeper meaning for both the plot and the lead character and completely shifted our experience of the story. Now, having said that, you could have a layer that the audience is aware of the whole time. We could know that one character is lying to all the others and have the audience be completely aware of it and constantly going, oh my God, when are they going to figure this out? I can't believe that they are just buying into this. So then there's also, anytime you have a layer, there's going to be a reveal at some point. Now, you can choose if that reveal is something that we experience as just kind of part of the normal scene, or if it's what I call a dramatic reveal. You might reveal in the same time you reveal the layer, you might reveal that this character has been doing this the whole time or whatever. But here's the difference between a regular reveal and a dramatic reveal. The layer is uncovered in a compelling way at a key emotional moment. Now, what this means is this, it's two things. First, you have to ask yourself, how am I going to reveal this? Are you just going to have two characters talking to each other? Like, let's say one character has been conning the other all the way through the movie. We've thought this person is, say, the best friend. And the whole time we've been thinking this is the best friend and everything's wonderful between these two. And then suddenly there's a moment where it's revealed that this is the person who's been conning the other one. If you do that in a conversation where, let's say the best friend, let's say this is two women who, whatever their situation is, but let's say the best friend just tells her friend, hey, I'm sorry, I've just been lying to you this whole time, right? I don't think that's a compelling way. Even if she does it crying, I don't think that's a compelling way. But let's say instead, now we're getting right to the point of like the wedding, or let's say, and now we find out that she's been trying to have a relationship with the other one's boyfriend. Throughout the entire movie, she's been sabotaging things. And the way we find out is we catch her in the middle of the act. That right off the bat is much more compelling. It's emotionally compelling. It's a betrayal. It's not a confession. It just happened and bam, we got it. If it's done at a key emotional moment, right, this also makes a difference. If one character, let's say we just found it out and it was just in the middle of things, that's fine. But if it was right before the wedding, or if it was right after the wedding, or something like that, it's like, oh my God, or during the wedding, those are key emotional moments. Those are the worst possible time for us to discover this, thus making them more dramatic. So be thinking about that when you decide to reveal a new layer. Now, when you're mining your story, and let's go back to our A-list screenwriter, when I said the thing about, do you ever discover it 6 months later? What he told me was, he said, it's his responsibility to find what's beneath the surface in that story. And he said, even if he absolutely loves the surface, he's already thinking about what's beneath the surface. What don't I know? So I want you to be kind of thinking this way. Even if you love your surface story, start searching for what's under the surface as soon as possible. And you can do that in a light way. I don't know, maybe I prefer to be more dramatic or something. I don't know. But I kind of like this model. Just pretend that your characters are hiding something from you. When somebody tells me that their protagonist is completely nice, this is the first thing I think. It's like that character has hidden something from the person that created them, from the writer. Yes, maybe they are nice, and they've got something else going on under the surface. They haven't told us what they're hiding. And you could think of it a lot of different ways. You could think of them as, well, they're afraid to tell. You could think of it as, hey, they have this whole scheme going on, and you're one of the people they conned. If you want, you can even get mad at them. We had a writer who couldn't sell a script, got angry at his characters, and ended up selling that script after going through the process of rewriting those characters to be the awful people he believed they were. And that made the difference, right? So this is worth doing. Pretend that your characters are hiding something and go for it. Make it your mission to investigate them, right? Enjoy uncovering the real truth and just relish solving that mystery. If you're willing to do this, I promise you, you will discover something under the surface that will make your story better. And it may just be small things, or it may be one of those things where you go, oh my God, right? If you go back to The Sixth Sense, M. Night Shyamalan said, he said it was the 9th draft, and he realized that he had a really good story, but at that point, our Malcolm was not yet revealed as being something different, as in being dead. He said he had no idea about that. He just knew that his story wasn't good enough yet. It wasn't going to sell. It wasn't going to become a huge success. Now, what he did was he started looking for, what is this character hiding, or what does this character not know about? What's beneath that surface? He started investigating that. He did a couple of different creative processes and suddenly had the breakthrough. But just know, most of the time you don't have this kind of breakthrough if you don't go through this kind of process, right? So if you're holding back from investigating your characters, maybe that points to you could discover something that changes your whole life. It's worth doing. Let me give you some ways to build in some depth. First one is subtext. Everybody knows subtext is the meaning beneath the surface. And by the way, subtext could be hidden or it might not. A lot of times really good subtext is us experiencing this character is lying to us, or this other character has this wound, and so that's why they're holding back, or whatever, right? We're experiencing what's going on under the surface for that character. Could be that way, or it could be there's some big thing going on under the surface that we don't know about, and then we discover it. Superior position is another cool beneath the surface tool. What this means is we know the subtext of one of the characters, but the other characters don't know that, right? So if you've got one character that is cheating everybody or lying to them or whatever, you could consider having that be something the audience is aware of. And that way we get a chance to watch how that character behaves and feel for the other characters who are buying into it and all of that kind of thing. The other thing you could consider is maybe for the first act, we think that character is completely normal. And then we suddenly find out about their subtext. And for the rest of the movie, we are experiencing their subtext kind of out loud in a way. Third possibility is to create impending doom. The amazing thing about impending doom, when we know, early on that something terrible is possibly going to happen, right? There's something life-threatening, there's something tragic that is about to occur. We know it's coming up, right? What that does is that has us constantly being worried about these characters. You could, if you know, for instance, let's say we're in a horror movie and we just saw, the slasher kill a couple of people just down the street, and now they're outside the cabin. But what we see on the inside of the cabin is two people having a romantic dinner. And it's a wonderful experience for them. But because we know the slasher is outside and looking in the windows, right? We're feeling that impending doom. Now, it's also suspense, and there's also subtext there, but there's doom coming up. There is something serious going on that causes us to worry and to feel for those characters every single moment. Fourth one, intrigue. And I love intrigue. When you're watching a movie that's intriguing, it's amazing what it does, and I'll say that in a second. But intrigue means someone is plotting craftily or underhandedly. Even if you have a nice character, they could be possibly doing one of these things. Here's what intrigue does. Intrigue causes us as audiences to be constantly looking beneath the surface. We are constantly worried about what's happening there. And because of that, we're deeply engaged. Now, think about the last time that you watched a great thriller. Very likely it created so much intrigue that you could not even consider leaving the theater for a second. And this is one of these things. You want your audiences to be engaged this way. So what intrigue does, again, is it causes us to investigate the plot. It causes the audience to have a need to look beneath the surface. Number 5, scheme, right? This is a scam or a deception against another. You could do this really 2 ways. You could either have it be a scheme that we don't know about, right? We've got, 3 characters and 2 of them are involved in a scheme against the other one, and we don't know about it, and maybe we're suspecting, but at some point along the way we find out. Or you could have it be something where we do know about it, and we have superior position, they're scheming, and the whole time we are concerned for the other characters. We're wondering how they're going to deal with it. How are they going to respond? Will they figure it out in advance, or are they going to fall for it, right? Number 6, a conspiracy. A conspiracy has multiple characters that are involved in a scheme. And again, a couple of ways to do this. One of them is to have a full-blown conspiracy where we know what they're doing. Like when you see one of the heist movies or something like that, we're watching the conspiracy, and here's these 7 players that are going to take down the casino, right? And just watching the conspiracy is engaging and interesting and all that kind of thing. You could also have a conspiracy where we know about 2 or 3 of the players, but we don't know about a couple of others. And we find out about them later on. And the whole time we think they're on the side of the protagonist, but it turns out they're also part of the scheme. And then the wound. I think when you're putting together your character profiles, this may be one of the most powerful tools you have. You know, what's that character's wound? What has happened to them in their lives that is so traumatic? You know, what has caused them such a deep psychological or emotional injury so that they actually are feeling like the moment that any of that comes up, they react to it. Now, this is one of those things that if you can build in a really strong wound, what you have from the moment we know about the wound is we are watching a character that is actually immobilized. They either can't react, they freeze, or they go the other way and they blow up completely when they're triggered by that wound. So it gives you something that you can play with all the way through the story. And in the end, they can finally recover from it or not, depending upon how you want to do that. So a wound, again, causes us to feel empathy for the character. It causes characters to avoid any triggering of this wound. It's just such a great creative device. And it'll actually help you rethink your characters, rethink why they're doing what they're doing. You may find out that the reason they're engaged in their entire pursuit is to resolve this wound or to somehow make up for it. So worth building in. And then finally, a hidden identity. And most of the time when you have a hidden identity, it's something where a character is tricking another or something like that. But that doesn't have to be the case. And you're going to find out in the example I'm going to give. There's a hidden identity that is actually something kind of playful. But, you know, it's up to you. However, depending upon the genre you're in, depending upon what your story is about, you have a character that's presented one way, then revealed to be another way, right? What this does is it causes us to rethink that character. It also gives so many different, both emotional and dramatic opportunities that you can create. So here's our example, and let me get out of the way for it here. So this is the movie, The Proposal. With all the techniques that you just heard, all the intrigue techniques, all the schemes, all those other kinds of things, usually I have a tendency to think of those as kind of thriller tools, but the truth is I have seen them in every single genre. So I just want you to watch how they're presented in The Proposal. Hopefully you've seen this movie. It's an excellent movie, well worth watching, especially on date night. It's very fun. Act 1. This is where Margaret finds out she's going to be deported. What does she do? So the first thing we have in Act 1 is a scheme. Margaret decides that the solution to her deportation problem is to have Andrew marry her. That's the scheme. We, in this case, are in superior position. We saw the scheme created. We know what her need is. We know that Andrew isn't in on it in the very beginning. She basically has to kind of talk him into it, force him into it, blackmail him into it, which is all pretty interesting and fun. Then there's an investigation. they go to the INS, the immigration department. And the first thing the guy says, the agent says, when he sits down across from him, is he goes, ba, 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 ba. So, are you two committing a federal crime that is punishable by 5 years in prison? Right? And it's like, right off the bat, there's that investigation has begun. What this does, again, even though these are really obvious things, is they create something under the surface. We are constantly worried. And in this case, it also creates some intrigue because Andrew and Margaret both decide to go forward with it. And the question here becomes, can they trick the immigration agent? Can they trick their way through this? You know, so there's our first act. We've already had 4 different basically kind of intrigue techniques happen already in this movie. Now let's go to the 5th. There's another scheme. They're going to go see Gammy for her 90th birthday, and they decide up front their job is to go there, present that they're a couple and they're going to get married. So they're saying later on they're going to have a quickie divorce. But talking to that family, that's what they're about to present. Now, when they get there, we find out about something else. There's a secret identity. And, you know, probably if you watch this movie, you didn't think there was a secret identity. I didn't until I watched it, analyzing it, and I was like, oh my God, yes. Andrew, when he arrives, is totally comfortable with everything that's happening there. But Margaret is blown away by, wait a minute, she says this, you're a rich kid. Now, up until that point, Margaret thought Andrew was just like some low-level college student who couldn't get a job someplace else or something. She had been berating him for 2 years. And now suddenly she finds out that his family is wealthy. That makes a difference in their relationship, and it makes a difference in many, many things that we see from that point on. Then there's some subtext that's presented as soon as they get there. And this happens the moment the father walks in and introduces himself. It becomes really clear there is some major conflict between him and Andrew. From their opening interaction, from that point on, every single time we see him and Andrew talk, there's a problem. And they get in an argument after argument after argument, and ultimately the father turns against him, and it's still because of this problem. So what's the problem? Andrew's dad has wanted him to run the family business, and Andrew has decided to stay in New York and to be a publisher, essentially. Go to Act 3. Now they're at the parents' house, and there are preparations for the wedding. And so there's a couple of conspiracies that go on, but let me just go to the easy one. Because most of the time when people think conspiracy, it's a bad thing. There's a major conspiracy that occurs in Act 3, where the women of the family take Margaret to, you know, this little show, and suddenly this stripper shows up, and Margaret is basically forced to go on stage and humiliated. They set that up. It was a fun thing. It was part of their, you know, pre-wedding ritual. For Margaret, yes, it was humiliating, but for everybody else, it felt like they were doing something fun and happy. However, it was a conspiracy. They conspired against Margaret or without Margaret. Number 9. Now we have a wound triggered. And if you remember the movie, we get to a certain point and she goes and tries on the wedding dress. And Gammy is going through and helping her fit into the wedding dress, and they're having all kinds of fun things and all of that. And then Gammy takes her aside and gives her a necklace that came from Gammy's great-grandmother. She says this has been in the family for centuries, and she feels like Margaret is just part of her family. She was destined to be there, and she gives her this. Margaret, at that point, goes into a deep emotional state. And when I originally watched this movie the first time, I thought, oh, Margaret is feeling guilty and sad because she's tricking this family. But what we find out in the next scene, when she gets on the boat, is that it's a deeper wound. It's a wound that's been there ever since she was 17 when her parents died. And so she has lived her whole life without family. And this, the way they did this, I think is so interesting and so creative. Basically, we set up this entire thing where Margaret, now we understand who she is and why she is as cold as she is and why she doesn't feel connected to people. It makes a big difference in that situation. Also, then it creates an interesting moment right before we go into Act 4. And Act 4 now is about the wedding, but it starts with another conspiracy. And this one is not a fun conspiracy. Andrew and Margaret arrive home, and the dad says, come in the barn, I want to talk with you. And when we get inside the barn, we find out that the dad has been in a conspiracy with the INS agent, the immigration agent, and flew him up there. This gives us both a conspiracy and a betrayal. It also then forces Andrew to make a decision right then, and his decision is he's going ahead with the wedding. Now, I think that's, if you look at the sequence and how they set that up, that's really great writing. Then we have another wound that's triggered. And this one happens when they go up on stage. We've got Andrew and Margaret up there. They're standing in front of the minister, who also happens to be the stripper. And that's part of the comedy in the situation. But our minister now starts it out by saying, you know, we're here for this wedding, and what this is about is friends and family. And he says it's because of the friends and family that both these two have come together, and they're here to honor friends and family. He says it over and over until Margaret finally freaks out. And what's happened here is her family wound has been triggered again. She turns around, she confesses to the family that she did this, that she blackmailed Andrew, that Andrew is a good person. And by the way, a lot of his traits clearly came from his mother and father. She confesses and then gives herself up. So she sacrifices herself in that situation because basically, and this is the reveal, she's sacrificing herself because she has fallen in love with that family. So finally, this all brings us to our final scheme and reveal. After Margaret leaves, Gammy fakes a heart attack, forces them to put her on a plane. They're in some little puddle jump plane, and she gets both Andrew and the dad to decide to work together and to take care of each other and to show love to each other and all of that. That's her scheme. What is then revealed when we get to the airport is that Andrew clearly does love Margaret. And that's why he's going through all of this. That's why he's trying to stop the plane. That's why ultimately he flies back to New York and finally tells the truth in the situation. Now, if you look at all of that, there's at least some of the depth that is in the proposal. And there's other forms of depth that are in the movie, The Proposal. But if you take all of this out, that script needs a major rewrite. Right? I hope you can see that. Because what this does is this says, you want to be looking under the surface. You want to be thinking about what is beneath the surface. And you want to be creating beneath the surface. Even if you're looking at this right now, this is a rom-com that has used all the techniques that we talked about today. I can find 20 other movies that you would be surprised that they were filled with these kinds of techniques. Our job is to be thinking beneath the surface. Now, having said that, for you, for your next script, what level of quality do you want, right? How well do you want that script to be written? How well do you want it to do in contest? And, ask yourself, how do you want producers and agents to respond when they read your script? Because a lot of this, the majority of it, has to do with how you write and how you think beneath the surface. So what we've done today really just came from 3 lessons of this upcoming class, Writing Incredible Movies. This is one of our major classes we just finished about a year ago. It is designed to have you be writing at a level you've never written at before, right? And what we did today, again, was 3 lessons. Essentially, it was the tools from 3 lessons. I didn't give you the how-tos. I just basically walked you through an example. But what if you learned all there was from those 3 lessons and the other 97? That's what's possible. Today I was on Zoom with 6 of our writers that went through that program 1 year ago. And what they said was they now think through all of these techniques. They now create through all of these. They said before that, they were creating at a certain level. Now they have about 100 other techniques that have completely changed how they design a script, how they think, and how they create. So what I'd like to ask you to do, just stay with me for about 5 minutes, take a look at this class. As I'm talking about it, I'm going to walk you through some of the strategies that A-list screenwriters are using today. This program was created first with a development team. For almost 2 years, we worked and analyzed some of the best movies out there. But second, I interviewed about 100 A-list screenwriters to look at what are they doing that makes them different than everyone else. So it starts with this. Rather than doing what most people do and doing what I did early on, which was I get an idea and I just start writing, and then we see what shows up. What an A-list screenwriter does is they ask up front, what's the pitch? Right? They know they're going to be pitching it at some point. They create a pitch up front. So this is what we're going to do in this program, and it's been very successful. You start by creating a basic pitch that gives your script a chance of selling from the very beginning. Then from there, then you go from pitch to outline. And the purpose here is to first make sure that that pitch is working in the outline, but also that your story works, making sure your structure works, making sure that everything is built in that will have producers, agents, managers, when they read it, see something they have a chance of selling and see something that is well written. From there, we go to characters. And we're not just designing characters kind of, for fun. What we're doing is we're designing characters for actors. We're looking to do everything we can to make sure that when we go to pitch to actors, it increases the chance you'll get some major players playing your roles. Now, by the way, this is really important if you hope to get a manager, because the managers know they're going to have to sell this script. So the first 3 modules here will give you a significantly better chance. Module 4, now it's about making the outline incredible. And if you haven't worked with outlines yet, this is going to be something that's going to change your life. Because not only are you going to learn how to create outlines, but you'll learn how to create them in a way that has multiple levels to them. Everything we did today, all those techniques that I showed you, are all built into the outline in Module 4. That's 3 lessons in Module 4 that we're working with. So if you have an incredible outline, it makes it 10 times easier to write an incredible script. Then in Module 5, now we're going to do a high-speed first draft. And by the way, You know, speed in this industry is valued. If you can write faster, if you can get things done quicker, if you can respond to notes earlier, people in this industry are going to love you. So that has you meet deadlines. It makes it easier for you to get more scripts written. Learning how to write that first draft at high speed will make a huge difference. So what we have here are what I call the high speed writing rules. It's how do you double or triple the speed at which you normally write? Now, you don't have to always write that way. You'll stay with whatever speed you normally write at, but anytime you want to triple that speed, you have the exact model for doing that. Module 6. Now we're going to solve the problems early. And let me tell you what this is about. When I talk with script consultants, they tell me, and I've interviewed 50 different script consultants over the last 10 years, one of the things they tell me is that most of the scripts they see have major beneath the surface problems. They have structure problems, they have plot problems, they have major character problems, and this will be after the writer thinks the script is done. So what we do is, instead of waiting till the script consultant reads it, we solve the problems now. We solve them in a second draft. So by the time you're done with this second draft, you'll have a problem-free draft. Now, here's what I did, and this was my team and I. We worked together to make a list of all the main problems that people have under the surface. And we created a little model where you can go to the exact problem, find that problem, click it, and it'll pull up, here's the exact solution to that problem. So I'm talking about structure problems, character problems, scene problems. You can solve them pretty much instantly. And you solve them during that second draft instead of after you've written 100 pages. Then we go into the third draft, and this one is all about elevating quality. Our job here is to make the quality of the structure, characters, and scenes significantly better. So every one of these drafts is going to double or triple the quality of the current script that you're working on. At this point right here, you're already thinking, what's going to have people love this story? What is going to have people say, oh my God, this writer is incredible? Going into module 4, now it's about amazing dialogue. This is our fourth draft. So you've got everything working. You solved all the problems, right? You're still matching your pitch, so you have something that can sell. You've elevated the quality. Now it's time for dialogue. So you'll take whatever dialogue you've written right now. We'll give you a series of different dialogue techniques that will have you be able to apply to any line, and you will brainstorm and come up with the best possible dialogue. You'll end up with stuff that the moment somebody even opens the first page of your script, they're saying, wow. And then module 9, now it's about wordsmithing. Now you'll notice up until this point, we aren't wordsmithing. We're working on big picture stuff. We're working one step at a time. We are building this to the final detail stage. And module 9, now it's about wordsmithing to perfection, making sure that script reads incredibly well. And that takes us into module 10, where it's about marketing. So you need to know, how do you sell this script? How do you market it? And we're going to do a couple of things here for you. The objective is for you to be able to get your scripts read. And there are two things we're going to do. One is we're going to give you a whole series of different marketing campaigns, so it's not just a one-shot thing. Second, we're going to give you a model for building a network of producers, agents, and managers. We have had at least 100 writers that have built a network of 1,000 producers or more using this particular model. So what this does is it solves that problem that people have where they say, nobody will read my script. What if you brought 100 producers into your network or 1,000 producers into your network? What if you step by step, and this is something you do over time, what if you step by step continued to build that network until you have producers for any script you read or you write from this point on. That's our objective in this situation. Now, this is a 6-month program, covers all of those modules. It has 100 lessons in the program. Every lesson is designed to give you a simple model that you can use right now that covers a high-level skill. This is something we're great at. How do we take the complex and make it really easy? I want you to be able to be competent. Every lesson then has an assignment where you apply that skill set to a part of your script right now. So this isn't just about reading something or seeing a video and just going, oh, cool, yeah, thanks. It's about you actually building it into who you are as a writer. And in the midst of it, we do 38 mastery sessions to help you absolutely master this. Remember when I was talking about the people that I talked with today, every one of them said they now think this way. They create at this level. When they create a script, they are building in depth, they're building in subtext, they're building in intrigue, they're building in more complex and interesting characters from the beginning. It makes a huge difference. The normal price on this is $12.99. The class actually starts on July 10th. So that gives you a little bit of time to brainstorm some concepts and that kind of thing. As soon as you sign up, what we'll do is we will send you a lesson on how to brainstorm concepts. So you can start right now generating concepts. Before you come into the class, you pick the one that you like the best, and then you write it in this program. By the time you're done, you will have an incredible script, and you will be a significantly better writer. For many people, it's helped them to elevate themselves to the level of being pros. Let's see. So let me give you a special to make it easy. This is for the first 10 people. And you guys know how our system works. It's set. So the first 10 will get this price. The next 10, then it'll jump, I think, at $50. It'll continue to jump for every 10 after that until it finally gets to $12.99. So for right now, you can get in at $699. That's a savings of $600 on this program. And I promise you, this program is going to be worth every bit of it. We have a money-back guarantee. If at the end of the first week, you don't like the program for any reason, we will give you your money back. You just have to get to us within 7 days. Just send us an email and we will refund your money at that point. But I promise you, you'll go through this program and you will love what it does for your writing and how it makes change for you. Here's all you got to do to sign up. Just go down here, write down this bit.ly. So there's 2 sign up versions there. There's the one where you pay $6.99, bit.ly/SU-WIM. This is Screenwriting U-Writing Incredible Movies. Plug that into your browser where you normally put a web address, click return, and you get the special price. If you need a payment plan, it's bit.ly/WIM-payments. That'll get you in for $105 a month for 7 months. I think the total on it is $735, but it's basically the equivalent of, going to Starbucks every day and getting a Starbucks coffee. And for that, you can double or triple the quality of your writing and become somebody who really knows what you're doing. This is going to make a huge difference for you if you ever want to get a manager, because managers need you to have these skills. It's also going to make a big difference if you want to win contest. We have had contest winners in every major contest. We've had 2 people who have won nickel. We've had people who have won Final Draft Big Break, Austin, Page, Grand Prize, all because they were writing at a different level than the others. So if what you want to do is become a great writer, this is what you need to be able to do that. Come join us. So listen, I want to say thank you guys for being with me today. I hope you got a lot out of this, and I look forward to talking with you another time. With that, this is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, wishing you the absolute best. Bye-bye, everyone.